even recognize them. I've had people who are rich entrepreneurs, actors, celebrities, and then down to just average kids who just fit the all-American profile, and they never imagined it would happen.
Isn't that so great, the stigma? And I'm so glad that you said that you can't tell who's got what because mental health does not discriminate.
The stigma is so strong. I mean, thankfully, people have been able to come out about all different topics and have been accepted in the community, but still, I think there's a huge, huge gap between the acceptance of mental health. And maybe it's like what Caroline alluded to. If someone has to accept that mental health affects everyone, or it potentially affects everyone, they'd have to look into themselves and check. And the stigma stays strong.
You know, she was saying that like sometimes it was hard for her to get up and get ready, or she started overthinking things and like what she had to endure to overcome from being homeless and getting her life in order. Sometimes my anxiety strikes me the hardest when it's something I have to look forward to and I've been preparing for so long, and I'm so excited about it, and then I'm just so afraid it's gonna like ruin or it's gonna sabotage.
I actually came up with the term. Over all these years, I've kept journals, and I've come up with, and looking back on the journals, I've kind of created some terms, and
sure.
I call that like anxiety hijacking any positive experience. So people don't understand that even a positive experience that someone looks forward to and everybody would arguably say is wonderful can fall under and be susceptible to the idea that anxiety can just say, no matter how positive something is, find the bad and the good. And it can kind of sabotage and ruin that whole experience. And I think that's another thing that people have a difficulty time understanding. Like, how can't you be enjoying the vacation, or how can't you be enjoying yourself?
No, I mean, like important meetings or VIP events, or I don't know, something, and then a nail breaks. And I'm like, that's it. I'm not going to go now. Like, but I know that I'm looking for that excuse or something, just one of those. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens often. It comes and goes, I think. It depends. But I think anxiety
I think
runs
with
in my
anxiety
family.
comes, right, with anxiety comes the kind of the urge to try to avoid.
Avoidance is anxiety's best friend, isn't it?
Right, avoidance is just one of the rituals and compulsions which people don't talk about in movies, but where you see washing hands, that's part of the mental rituals where people will avoid something or review something in their head so many times that they psych themselves out of the event before it even happens. So this is all the invisible side of anxiety and fear.
I have
things
a question.
That people can't see because it's happening.
I have a question for just a couple of clients of mine. When anxious, they pick the skin around their hands or their like cuticles, or pick their skin a lot out of anxiety. What do you recommend when people do that? Not so much trichotillomania or just picking their cuticles or nail biting or things. How do you help them through?
I look at that as any bad habit that someone, or a negative way that people cope with it. It could be. There's a whole classification of self-medication where, unfortunately, people start drinking or doing something else to relieve their anxiety. So I think that's just, if you see any person who's nervous, in a nervous situation, whether they have anxiety disorder or not, if someone's in the hospital waiting on to hear from their loved one, if they're in surgery, they pace back and forth. So I think it's just a manifestation of a way that they're kind of creating a nervous habit to deal with their anxiety.
But if it's become more than just a bad habit and it's hurting them,
well, then basically there's something called habit reversal therapy, where you replace that negative habit with something a little less troublesome. I give people like a koosh ball to pick on the end of it. Or I give people
like a rubber band to snap on their wrist and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing
not
too.
On their wrist. Not on their wrist, not to hurt them.
I want to snap it and flick it at their face. No, just kidding. That'll stop you from biting your nails.
Right. I mean, like a koosh ball, or something to. A koosh ball to get to. They're basically doing it to get the stress out of their system. I look at stress from anxiety and fear as coming from a kind of a nervous energy. So it seems like they're trying to get nervous energy out of the system. But the number one thing to do would be exercise. I did my dissertation on it, and I continue to do research on the importance of exercise, and I incorporate in my own life to help deal with anxiety.
Well, that's great. So those are some things. We have about 10 minutes. Last callers that want to call in, 866-826-1340. Now's your chance. And you have a book out, Dr. Rob. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the book I wrote was Rise Within.
Rise Within?
Rise Within, Overcoming Fear and Anxiety. I didn't write it so much to tell my story. I meant it to show how families can come together and help, and I kind of go through each chapter exploring different ways and my inspirations, and one is my grandmother with gratitude. Another strong one was my great-grandfather, 105, with perseverance. My father, who basically never knew how to read and write and ran a successful business. And also, people I've come along the way volunteering, helping people with cerebral palsy. And the way I look at it is, if you put all these concepts together and you put gratitude and perseverance and understand that everyone's struggling, it kind of can set off a catalyst within you to stop focusing on yourself so much and try to recover, realizing that everyone has obstacles in their life.
Right. And so to help people not feel so alone. And
the book is full of strategies about having the right mindset to overcome. It's full of strategies about how to face your fears. And I'm actually creating a new production. It's called Mindsight from Hindsight, which means that learning, taking what you've learned in the past psychologically and kind of gaining from it and learning from your hindsight and gaining and applying what you've learned for the positive. And I believe that that's the key to any success, is learning from, quote unquote, your failures and gaining insight from it and moving forward and creating a better version of yourself.
Learning from our mistakes is the only way to go, right? Because otherwise we just keep making the same mistake over and over again, expecting a different result.
Winston Churchill has my favorite. Winston Churchill, my favorite quote, it says, "Success is going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm." It's all about realizing that failures are the gateway to success, or things that go wrong could be the gateway to gaining insight into success.
That's a great quote. And a lot of smart people are our ancestors. But with anxiety, a lot of times we have to push through that avoidance. And exposure therapy is one big one I use with my clients, is that we have to overcome that fear. And a little bit of self-esteem and self-confidence works really well with treatment with that, is proving to ourselves that we can overcome that fear, because hope is the only thing greater than fear. So knowing that we can overcome, and if we avoid, the more we avoid, the worse the anxiety gets that I've seen. Would you agree?
Right. I bring it down and I relate it to people that I work with to the simplest level, that if a young boy is scared of a pool, the longer the time he kind of circles the pool, the more he's psyching himself out of the fear. And I believe that fears grow from avoidance. They don't diminish. So every time you avoid something that you potentially fear, you never find out the truth. And in the back of your mind, you're registering it as something that needs to be done again, and there's something to be fearful of that you need to avoid. So avoidance actually not only is not a good way of coping with it, but actually can reinforce your fear and make everything even worse over time.
Mm-hmm. And that's the sad part, is that a lot of times people want to brush it under the rug and pretend that's not a problem. And then it does get worse. And then we're checking doors. One thing I've learned, and that I tell people with obsessive compulsive or anxiety issues, is those that spend hours and they have their routine before bedtime, checking the door, checking the garage door, checking the coffee machine, checking the toaster and then they lay down in bed and they're like, did I? And then they go through it all again. Is to get a white erase board and write down all the things that they do and check them off and say it out loud so our auditory hears that as well. And so okay, I locked the front door, and check it off on a white erase board. I closed the garage door, or whatever the anxiety is driven towards. And it does work, because eventually you start realizing that, being silly, you've already done it, and you have it in writing in front of you, and you're telling another person. And so you can always say to your spouse or to whoever's in the house, did I do that? And then they say, yeah, I heard you say that you did that. And so it's double, it kind of breaks the habit, breaks the madness. ends the madness.
Well, I don't want to throw a kink in that, but I don't want to throw a kink in that. All I have to say about that topic is that, unfortunately, when people have anxiety, that the erase mode works, but what they're getting from their spouse is reassurance. So fear dealt with in just a fear of a bridge, a fear of an elevator, if they overcome that fear, it's gone. But with intrusive thoughts and OCD, it's kind of counterintuitive the way you have to treat it. And sometimes if you build a tolerance to say, I checked it, but maybe I didn't check it, and be able to tolerate that uncertainty, doubt, and the what if, that actually even fortifies you even stronger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and eventually you don't need the reassurance, though. So 4 minutes left.
Right. The goal is not to have the reassurance.
Right. Well, it's got to start somewhere, but it tends to work. So about 4 minutes left. How can people find you? I put your link on the Facebook Live, and we were having a little bit of. We tried something new today, and we had a new setup for the video cam. So, but it's www.drroblancer, ROBLANCER.
Yes, Dr. Rob Lancer at NYOCD, New York, NYOCD.com. I can be found on Facebook at Dr. Rob Lancer. I'm also on Instagram at Dr. Rob Lancer.
What was it, Dr. Rob Lancer, NYC?
No, the web address is nyocd.com. My name for Facebook is at Dr. Rob Lancer. Okay. And also on Instagram at Dr. Rob Lancer.
Awesome.
So I'm always posting stuff, blogs,
and you have your book
this new
for
project
sale
I'm on.
Too. And should we go to your drroblancer.com page to purchase?
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon. So if you look up my name and Rise Within Overcoming Fear and Anxiety, you'll find the book as well. Please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and on my website as I venture into this new project of kind of interviewing people and having them learn their mindset from their hindsight and learning to fail forward instead of fail backwards.
And it's great that you're helping so many people. And I just found it, Rise Within, the comeback kid, Dr. Robert Lancer. And so if you suffer with OCD or any of these things that we're talking about, anxiety, this is a specialized book, and I highly recommend it because after speaking with Dr. Roberts, he knows his stuff, and in my opinion, and it's my show, and my opinion matters. Just kidding.
Thank you for listening to your opinion.
No, but thank you so much. I know you're very busy in New York and everything, and you're doing a lot of motivational speaking and a lot of outreach, and it's an honor to have you on the show, Dr. Rob, and thank you so much for being on Moments of Clarity. And we're going to have to let you go right now. Thank you so much. We'll be back with Moments of Clarity tomorrow, 12 to 1, and we're going to be talking about LGBT conversion therapy and transgender issues from someone that's been through it all and an award-winning author. Thanks, Ed, and thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. See you tomorrow, 12 to 1, and thanks again. Bye. Bye.